Sisterhood Checkin. I am your author and coach, Nadira Lewis, and it is Friday. And I am here with my amazing, beautiful co-host here, Latasha Gooden. Give a round of applause for this awesome woman of God.
Hello. How are you guys tonight?
Yes, did you remember to go live on Instagram?
I did. What about you?
Yes, all right now. Thank you so much to each and every one of you that are watching here with us today. We don't take it for granted that you join us each and every Friday here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we're going to go ahead and play this video. Before we actually play this video, if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you do all that YouTube stuff. Click the subscribe button, hit the notification button so that you can be notified every time we upload a new video.
Come on, honey. Yes.
Yes. And if you are watching us on Instagram, make sure you click like and share if you are blessed by the content that we're receiving today. So we're going to play this video real quick, and we come back. Tasha's going to introduce our topic to us today. So make sure you call up your girlfriends and tell them Sisterhood Check-In is on the air. We'll see you after this.
We'll see you in a minute.
Sometimes it's not enough to be reminded that Jesus hasn't left you or forgotten you. We need to declare it over ourselves, over others. No matter the season you may find yourself in, no matter the depths of darkness you're wading through, you can join him in declaring the truth. That God is light upon your feet, whether or not you can see the next step. That God is your strength, even though the weight of life seems to be crushing you down. And that when your job, your marriage, your relationship, your health feels like it's coming to a dead end, there is only one God that can make dead things live again. These are his promises, and they're the only thing you need to declare over your life. So as you step into this next season or this next moment, you can declare that God's not done with you. He's just getting started. You can declare that the good work that he has started in you, he will surely complete it. You can declare that the same God that parted the seas goes before you, goes behind you. You can declare these promises over your life, over your family's life, over the people passing on the street. You can declare these truths over every circumstance, over every season of your life. You can declare that every day belongs to him and every new breath belongs to him. Because we have the power of a living God living inside of us. And this is our declaration.
Trying to get myself together, girl. Oh my God. Every time I hear that video, you don't understand. Behind the scenes, I am screaming because of the reality of the fact that we have a connection. We have a divine connection with a living God. If you really understood how powerful that was, you would live your life differently. You would handle people differently. You will handle circumstances differently. Oh my God. Thank you so much for watching Sisterhood Check-In. If you are watching us for the first time, put it in the comments and let us know the city and state that you're watching from. And Tasha's going to go over our topic today. So I'm going to try to get myself together over here, girl. This is... I just don't know how good God is. Oh God.
Yes. And tonight, Tonight, this is going to be a very, very heavy topic for the heart. You know, you guys, have you ever heard that old saying, I'll forgive, but I
Mm,
won't forget?
mm,
That's something that,
mm,
as we've been kind of going through like forgiveness and how should we handle, the forgiveness, like how do you move forward after you say you forgive, right?
mm,
A lot of times we are going through, things that we're harboring in our hearts, things that we're going through because we feel like we're validated to hold things, right? Because of the perpetrator.
mm.
But that's not what
Right.
God said in
Mhm.
his word. Okay. Because really, forgiveness is about you, right? It's for your inner healing and also for your prosperity. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about that tonight. There's three key components that we're going to really hone on, and whatever else God allows us to talk about, it's going to really be a blessing tonight. The first one is going to be about forgiving others. It's very important to forgive others. Then you should forgive yourself. And then why is it important to forget? Oh man, it's gonna be heavy tonight, Nadira. So I'm really excited about this. And we just want to say that our declaration tonight is that we will forgive and forget, even though it's hard. And you
Mm.
know why? Because
Yeah.
God did it. God did it. So that's
Yeah.
the most important component tonight. So we're going to really get into this. We're going to go right back into a commercial. And don't forget, guys, hey, likes, subscribe, check us out, hit that notification button. And also we're looking for you guys to chime in tonight. If you have any comments, any suggestions, things that you want to talk about, hey, we're free. We're here to conversate and have conversations with you guys on a wonderful Friday night. Because guess what? You guys could be anywhere else tonight. You can be in a
Yeah.
club, honey. You could be anywhere else, but you chose to be on Sisterhood Check-in watching us tonight. And we thank you for that. So stay tuned and we'll see you after the commercial.
Yes. And I wanted to take some time to acknowledge Rosa. Thank you so much. Rosa said, yes, girl. She said,
Hi,
"Huh,
Rosa. Thank you for
it's
tuning in.
yeah, she says she's having trouble with letting stuff go. Lord help me. Well, we have some good news for you today, Rosa. We are going to get
Yes.
to talking about forgiveness. And one of the things that I want you and everybody else that's watching to understand about forgiveness is that forgiveness is not for the other person, it is for you, right?
Yes.
And we're going to talk about what happens, the effects to your body of what happens to you when you choose not to forgive, right? There is a most people walking around and they have dis-ease, right? But we're going to get into what that was. We're going to go ahead and get into some of these talking points, and then we're going to get into what actually happens to you, right? The effect of what
Yes.
happens when you don't forgive, because everybody can say what I was. It was funny because I was sharing it with a few girlfriends of mine, and we were talking about how it is a process. Like, we think
It is.
forgiveness is a matter of just saying
Mm-hmm.
or using the words I forgive, but
Mm-hmm.
no,
Mm-hmm.
that's the starting process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Forgiving somebody is a process. It is an emotional process, it's a physical process, and it's a mental process, right? Because what happens is we think, oh, I said I'm sorry. So we think sorry means I forgave, right? We think, well, I already told you that already times. How many times? Not realizing that you're the one still suffering with the effects of unforgiveness. So we're going to get into some of the talking points that we were talking about, and one of the talking points that we were talking about is forgiving others, right? Tasha, if we
Yes.
only understood why forgiving others was important, because like I said, everybody thinks that forgiving others is a matter of word. That's just the start, right? But there is a process that has to take place in your heart first before you can even carry out that forgiveness, right? You can't.
Mhm.
Jesus told us that when you come to him praying, you have to stand and forgive, right? Or you're going to hinder his answer to you when you ask him for some stuff. And that is a
Absolutely.
reality. That is a reality because what happens is we tend to think, well, it's just between me and that person. No,
Mhm.
no, no, no. It's a reflection of your relationship with God. Because when you understand and you get to the point where you understand how much God has forgiven you, yeah, you,
Mm,
yeah, you,
yes.
and you, and you, and me, and you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? When we realize how much God has done for us and forgiven us, you will not look at forgiveness the same, right? Doesn't mean that you won't go through the natural triggers of what will happen when people frustrate you, right? That doesn't mean you won't experience that because that's the human side of you, right? That's why God tells us to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace, right? So you want to walk in forgiveness, you got to walk in the spirit, period. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to yield to that frustration that triggers the unforgiveness. You're going to yield to the anger that triggers the frustration that triggers the unforgiveness.
Mm, that's good. I like that.
So let's dig
Mhm.
deep, T. Let's
That's
dig
that's
deep.
so deep.
Let's
That's
dig
so deep.
deep. Let's get into this. You had a couple of scriptures up here that you wanted to reference. Let's get into this and let's help some people, right?
Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of share some things from the Bible and also from my personal experiences regarding forgiving others. The first one is talking about when David, right? David decided not to kill Saul. Sometimes in your forgiveness, you could have really did some things to people. Oh my God, don't make me shake these braids down. You hear me? But
Mm,
you choose because of the relationship that you have with your father. You say, I could have killed you. I could have did that to you, but I choose to let it go.
mm,
So what we're saying is that there are examples, right? That God is saying, I'm showing you that I've already led the way, right? I'm showing you that this can be possible if you believe. So I just want to give you a couple of examples tonight. So how do you feel about that particular part about Saul and David? Because Saul, he became a little jealous of David,
mm-hmm.
you know, when he found out that David was going to be king. So, it put a little animosity in his heart toward David. So imagine someone just hating you just because of your assignment.
And
Wow.
the key thing to remember too about David and Saul is not necessary. It wasn't to just only at his assignment. It was a personal. His anger was pointed towards God, right?
Mhm.
Because God, he disobeyed God, and sometimes when God is dealing with us about our disobedience, you may think that the person responding to you is responding to you based on what you see in the natural, but sometimes people act out in frustration when they're angry with God, right? They're angry with God because God had already taken his kingdom from him, right, and
Right.
given it to
Mhm.
David. So he was angry at David for being the one to he felt like, oh, now that I know that God has taken my assignment from me, I know he's giving it to you. So every time I see you, David's presence reminded him of his disobedience to God. So
Mhm.
his anger at David was a reminder of his disobedience. And sometimes we are angry with people for different reasons. We are unforgiving towards people for different reasons, right? And sometimes you have to dig a little deeper and figure out, why is this person treating me a certain way? Because if we just look at the fact that they just did this to me on the surface, you just said this to me, I don't like the what how you said it to me, I don't like what you did to me, I don't like the way you did it to me, right? What happens is when you
Mhm.
get to a point where you start feeling like, I don't like the way, um and let me get my cord, hold on one second, because my cord is actually is my phone is about to die in a little bit, but we still got 20%. I forgot to charge it up, but we good though. But what happened was David was a reminder to him of his disobedience. And so sometimes when people are doing things. This is what it means to walk in the spirit. You have to see beyond the words, behind the action. So when somebody's doing something to harm you, or is doing something or saying something to offend you, a mature believer, right, would see past the action and say, there's a hurt, because hurt people. There is something that they're dealing with that I may not even be the reason why they're really angry. I'm just the point of contact to demonstrate, to show their frustration towards. So you have to make sure that when you're forgiving, you that you have that you love, that you're forgiving them for you, because you don't know what that person may have gone through. Their offense towards you may not have anything to do with you.
Right.
But if you're walking around,
And that's why it also says, Nadir, that sometimes we have to come together, right? The Bible say, "Come together and let's talk."
yes,
Let's try to come
yes,
to a common ground,
yes,
and that's what happens a lot of times. We do a lot of assuming, right?
yes,
Opposed to saying, "Hey, let's get to the bottom of this matter." You know what? Because I love that person enough to get an understanding. Because the Bible says, with all of your getting, right? Try to get an understanding. Well, not try, but get an understanding. And that's what we should do. We should try to resolve things by any means necessary, not holding bitterness and anger, resentment, all of these things that are opposite of the fruits of the spirit, because it really hinders your inner healing and your prosperity. Because, hey, even with like Job, this is another example. And what happened with Job was that, God said that he was his faithful servant. And
yes.
Job went through a lot of things that he could have. His wife said, curse God and die, right? But
Mhm.
Job said no. But what is the kicker about forgiveness in this story is that when his friends came to see him,
Mm.
they said, "Oh, Job, he must have sinned. It's something that he did, because there's no way that he would be suffering this way." So in Job's heart, I'm just paraphrasing my thought process, right? He's
Yes.
saying, wait, you guys are my friends. You should know me at my being. Like, you know who I am. And you're saying that me, Job, I sinned against God. That really did something to Job. But what God did was, we have to also pray for people when they don't know what you just said, right?
Mhm.
They didn't even really know what they were doing when they were talking ill will about Job. But God said, I need you to pray for them. Pray for your friends.
Mm.
We have to all the time. See, I took out some because that's how we delay
Mhm.
forgiveness, because we use words and our mind is trained to do certain things. But
Mhm.
God doesn't do things on delay. He does things instantly. So when he told Job to pray for his friends,
Mm.
right? How many people pray for the very people that hurt you to your heart? How many of us really do that? Or do
Mm.
we hold a grudge? Because it's a legitimate grudge, right? But when he prayed for his friends, God said, I'm going to bless you double, because he prayed for the very people that said he basically sinned against God. You don't fear God. But because he did that, that changed the whole posture. God was able to heal Job and bless him, because it said he got double for his trouble. Everything was double. His children were, oh, they said his daughters were just beautiful to look upon. Like, they were the most beautiful girls, in the land. All of his cattle, everything was doubled. And
Mhm.
then here's the thing. The we know that Job forgave his friends, because everybody came over to eat with Job. They all sat down to the table when all of this was all said and done.
Mhm.
They all sat down to the table and ate. So sometimes we have to just put it behind us, right? If you would, Nadira, if you want to expound on that, you can go ahead.
I think too, I think it's important to understand that in order to really truly forgive at any state, whether it's a family member, whether it's a boss, a friend, a loved one, it takes understanding. It's funny because on the nightly devotions we've been talking a lot in Psalms and Proverbs, and what I keep seeing over and over again in both the book of Psalms and Proverbs is that the Lord gives understanding to the righteous, right? So sometimes when we don't have discernment, right? When we don't have a real genuine connection with God, we see things on the surface, right?
Right.
When we have not grown to a point to where we can see, because he told us to know no man after the spirit, right? I mean after the flesh, but after the spirit. So when you're dealing with people who are in, and Jesus even addressed it when the disciples said, well, how many times do you have to forgive people? Because in the natural, people will either intentionally keep offending you and doing things to you to play with your mind. And then you have some people who just genuinely, they just haven't changed themselves. So they might continue a behavior pattern because that's just, they're stuck in their ways and ain't nobody going to change them. That's just the way they are. You take it or leave it. They're set in their ways. So you have to understand, and this is what we talked about earlier. This is where you have to come to the conclusion and say, wait a minute, this is affecting me more than it is affecting them.
Mhm,
Because
mhm,
we tend to hold on to an offense or something that somebody has done to us, they go on with their lives like everything is good, right? They move
mhm,
on with their lives like there's nothing, like nothing ever happened, right? And you're the one that's sitting back and your body is being affected by it. You start getting, your body starts becoming diseased, right? And then what happens is you're the one with the headaches, the stress, you're the one angry and frustrated, and they going on with their life like you ain't even, like you never even existed. And so, what I've learned is that it's important to, when you forgive, you have to understand the fact that righteousness, that when people do things, right, they do things for different reasons. They do things because of the condition of their heart or whatever it is that they're dealing with. So you have to get to a place to where you be able to discern and say, okay, this person doing this, okay, they might be going through some stuff. Because there's some people, honestly, real talk, there's some people that have offended me and that I felt intentionally, right? And I literally would, a little part of me would be, my heart be broken. I'll be like, like, what did I do? But then it's not until hindsight I realized that all that time I was walking around in anger, all that time I was frustrated, that I look up and the person don't even know that they even offended you, right? They don't even know. Sometimes they just might have had a bad day and just went off, but you took it, you made it personal, right? You internalized what they said and did, right? And I had to realize that I had to stop internalizing. Nobody, you have to be a good steward over the things that go into in your heart and your mind. That's why he told us to guard our heart with all diligence, right? Because out of it flows the issues of life. If you've got issues in your heart, they're going to manifest, right? If you don't guard your heart. So that guard is there to help you filter against offense. We have to be careful because when you are offended, even the Bible says it's hard to offend a man. It's hard to win a man that's been offended. When you
mm,
are offended, you turn a deaf ear to anything anybody says or does. So what I realize is that person didn't even know they offended me. They just had a bad day, right? And so I realized we're not always on the opposite end of our words and we're not on the opposite of our word on the opposite end of our words and actions. So sometimes when things happen, yeah, you're gonna have people who are just wicked in their heart and they're gonna be intentional about doing you, and we know how to handle them. But when you find out that people, when I realized in hindsight that that person literally was just having a bad day, it caused me to be more merciful. And it caused me to
mm,
realize, like, wow, here I am carrying this grudge in my heart
mhm,
about this person because I felt like you offended me, right? And I
mhm,
realized that I'm not going to allow what people do, be it intentionally or unintentionally to prevent my prayers from going before God, because there's too many things I need God for that I can't
Mhm.
afford to let you hold me up because you refuse to, because you don't appreciate who I am as an individual and the value I bring to whether a friendship, a family member, a relationship. I can't risk that. So you have to take, so I had to be a I had to take charge and be like, okay, if you know a person is intentionally doing something to you, you have to make the decision to remove yourself, forgive them, and be able to move on and say, you know what? This person right here, they need prayer, they need healing, they need whatever they need, and you got to move on and let it go. But
Right.
sometimes it's hard to let it go when it's somebody that's close to you. People don't have a problem letting things go when it's somebody you ain't got invested interest in. You know, if it's somebody, baby,
Yeah.
let me tell you something. If I never have to see you again, you can say and do all you want to do. I don't ever have to see you again. But when it comes to somebody that you actually um have invested interest in, it begins to get a little
Right.
more challenging because now you're deal
Mhm.
this person has entered into your heart, into your circle, right? So now
Mhm.
they've gotten into a vulnerable place in your life that now you have to really take, it's going to really take growth and really take the spirit of God to really like put you together, because when you're offended and it's by somebody that's close, you have to take the necessary steps and
Mhm.
forgive, not only just by word, you have to, because if not, you may say I forgive, but your body will actually tell you
Mhm.
no, you didn't forgive. And that's why it shows up. That's why you see people who have issues, they have cancer is actually a main thing that comes up as a result of unforgiveness, right? Your body, nobody, you don't understand the impact and how it can be, it can help, it can affect you physically, emotional, mental, and spiritual, right? So what I've learned is I don't want to be sick. I don't like being sick. I don't like
Mm.
being sick at all. So
Yeah,
I
because
realized,
it will affect your body. It will affect your emotions. It will affect you, mentally, spiritually.
yeah,
Holding on to dark emotions, right?
mm, mm,
They're
yeah,
dark emotions that
yes,
we're holding on to. We choose
mhm,
to hold on to these things, right? And
yes.
um talking about forgiveness, you ready for me, Nadir?
Yeah, I'm putting it up now.
Okay. So, forgiveness, right?
Mm.
It gives you the opportunity to release the person who
Mm.
has hurt you,
Yes, my Lord.
okay?
Mhm.
Because it is necessary so that you can heal from the root cause
Mhm.
of the transgression committed against you. So what happens is we're not going down to the root. We just on the branches, right? We just picking off a little fruit, but we're
Mhm.
not cutting it off at the root so it won't reoccur, right? That means, you know, the Bible say we got to love more. The more that I began to dig into forgiveness, and God was really, talking about love. He said that, with love, it keeps no record of wrongs.
Mhm.
But boy, we got some records that we hold, right? Boy, we like, wait, hold on.
Shoot, some of us got some notebooks, some tablets, notebooks, some tablets.
And it says that love conquers, a multitude of sins, right?
Yes.
But does this mean that we should just forget the sin that was committed against you? That's the pondering story, right? Because most people still say, I'll forgive, but I won't forget.
Mm.
So we got to also, apply part two,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Because if you want to do the other one about forgetting,
Mhm.
forgetting is important because as I was studying, it said that when you forget, it means that, oh, this is so good. I mean, this blessed me this week. And it really, I'm sorry, I know I got off track, but it really made me just stop what I was doing and I began to pray
Mm.
for everybody that I felt I
Mm.
needed to forgive, that I felt violated me. right?
Mhm.
I began to pray because you know their faces will start popping up,
Ooh,
things start
yes.
coming out of your
Yes.
heart. And I said,
Yes.
God, oh, you got to help me with that one. Lord, help me with this. Lord, help me. Lord, bless them. The
Mhm.
Bible says when you can bless them, it changes you, right?
Mhm.
So forgetting means that you have made the conscious choice, oh my God, not to invest yourself any longer in what your uh what is that
Perpetrate.
perpetrator has done against you
Mhm.
for the sole purpose of healing. This is about us, guys. It's not about your perpetrator. It's
Mhm.
not about anybody else. God said this is between me and you. In
Mm.
order for me to do what I need to do in you, I need you to
Mm.
forgive. And
Yeah.
also in the Bible, if you look around and a lot of the times before Jesus healed somebody, he
Mhm.
said, your sins have been forgiven. A lot of times he forgave before he healed.
Mhm.
So if that's a part of the process, we got to just let things go because it's about you. It's about your livelihood. Like last week when we were talking about guarding your heart, guarding your mind,
Mhm.
all of this is a part of it because if you're not guarding that space,
Mhm.
right, that opens up the wound, when you're not allowing yourself to forgive and then choose to say, you know what?
Mm.
I'm just going to let that go,
Mm.
right? Because the Bible also said that it went into the sea, right? As far as the east is from the west.
Mm.
And you know that they don't touch. They don't touch at all. Could never, ever do your research. They could never touch. So if God did that, like we got to start looking at things from the lens of God, from the heart of God, like how God did things, not how the world, has taken this thing and we hold on to it and
Mhm.
it's keeping us in bondage.
Mhm. Mhm.
So this is really, I was telling the dear today, I said a lot of times when you want to, help people and bless people, that word come and slap you right in the face
What?
before you can even try to get it out to somebody else. So this word has really been like dealing with me about my love. Like
Mm.
how do you really love? Like
Mm.
are you willing to be like Jesus Christ? Are you willing to be like your Father, your Savior? Are
Mm.
you willing to look at this and handle things the way that I handle things? And
Yeah.
I want to say this. If you choose to forget, if you choose to forgive, it don't make you a punk, it don't make you soft, it don't make you any of those things. It actually makes you strong because God said, let the weak say that I am strong. Because in order to forgive a person, a thing, or a circumstance or a situation, and you choose to let it go, oh my God, that's some power in the deal.
Mm.
Oh my God. Mm,
I think sometimes when you try to do it, it's almost like, and I was explaining this to a friend of mine. I have been talking to Khadijah when I was talking about this.
mhm,
And I said, what happens is the way you deal with forgiveness, what happens is we deal with it from an external perspective. And that's why it's
mhm,
hard to do it when you deal with it from just a physical perspective. What do you mean by that? Meaning, we got to deal with the fact that, like I gave the example, like with McKinley and Bella, right? So if I was to tell Bella, oh, just forgive McKinley for what she said or did, what she's going to do is she's going to say, sorry, right? But it
mhm.
wasn't really forgiveness. She just apologized because she was
Right.
forced to apologize because she didn't want to suffer the consequences of that was going to occur, and because she didn't apologize. So sometimes our version of forgiveness is we're throwing apology at people, right? Instead of sitting
Mhm,
back. And when I started to explain to Bella, to McKinley, and I said, I explained to Bella, how what she did affected McKinley, right? How it
mhm,
affected her. It made her apology more authentic, right?
mhm.
You most of the time when we're dealing with unforgiveness, we're dealing with it from a physical aspect. You offended me, I want an apology. I want you to pay for what you did to
An
me.
emotional,
And
position.
that happened to me because especially, if you're in a marriage or relationship or family or whatever, one of the things I had to realize is that when you haven't really matured spiritually, the way you handle circumstances, even forgiveness, is different. So I
Mhm.
started to realize, wait a minute. I started to examine my own life and start to realize, man, there's a lot of stuff I'm glad that God didn't make that He forgave me for that nobody knew, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that awareness of how much God has forgiven me made me more compassionate to forgive other
Mhm.
people. So
Mhm.
everybody's not going to start their own way. I looked internally first, and it made it easier for me to display it physically. But what
Mhm.
happens is that people they do it externally for the sake of, hey KJ, um, some people forgive for the sake of, let me just hurry up and say this just so I can just get her out of my face, or so I can,
Mhm.
well, not realizing that you still have not dealt with. And I believe that's why Jesus told Peter, forgive for when he said, how many times I gotta forgive a person? And he said
Yeah.
77. I don't even think the emphasis was necessarily the number. I think he
Mhm.
was trying to help him understand, as long as whatever it takes, because of the effect. Forgiveness
Yeah.
is about you, it's not about them. Because every time you forgive them 70 times seven, you're making a conscious decision, not a choice. You're making a conscious decision to let it go, right? And what happens is, because we are people that are carnal and of the flesh, we don't like letting stuff go. You get me, I'm getting you. You come for me, I'm coming for you. You do me this way, I'm going to do you that way. So we are still operating from a physical or carnal aspect. But when you mature and you start to realize, like, wait a minute, hold up. This same thing, it don't mean that. Now, some people might think that sound weak because I ain't finna let nobody talk to me. Ain't nobody finna handle me this way. Ain't nobody, you ain't finna be doing that. Not realizing that that is not where your real power comes from. Because the real power is when you can control you, when you can control your response to the way people deal with you, when you can control how, even the Bible said a man that's able to control his own spirit is stronger than is as strong as a city, right? When you can control you, your response, you are in more control than you think you are, right? You are not, and you are in way more control than what you think you are. But the minute you allow the enemy to take that offense and it becomes, and you internalize it, then it becomes poison, right? Then you start to see it show up in sickness. You begin to see it show up in inflammation. Inflammation is, inflammation. A lot of people are suffering with inflammation in their body because of unforgiveness. Some people are suffering, not everybody, but some people are suffering from cancer and different diseases because they are holding stuff in. Unforgiveness. Even if you do the medical research, a lot of the illnesses is a result of not learning how to let things go, and to turn, and not just let them go,
Mhm.
but let them go and leaving them at the feet of God, and letting God deal with people where they are. And when you
Mhm.
really understand that, when you genuinely understand that it is God, who are we to judge another man's servant? Right? When God deals with people, right, according to where they are, He said vengeance is His, right? This whole battle and everything we go through is not about Tasha and Nadir and everybody else. It is about two entities. It is about God and the enemy, right? This whole thing and everything, when you really boil down, even Solomon said, look, when he realized it at the end of his death, he said, look, this is the whole conclusion of the matter. Fear God, depart from evil, right? So when the more you grow, the more you begin to realize how simple this walk really is. The more you grow in your relationship with God, the more you realize it's almost like starting over like a baby. It's like you realize I've been making this
Absolutely.
a lot more complicated than what it really is. And when you realize that, you're
Mm.
positioned how you deal with things, it starts to change because you realize I can't give energy to something that doesn't benefit me. I can't hold anger in my spirit. I can't afford to be sick. I got too much stuff going on. I can't hold unforgiveness on the inside of me because I don't know what you may have dealt with. I don't know what your day was like. I don't know what was going on. So guess what? I'm going to make an attempt and say, "Hey, everything okay? You okay? You good?" You know, and if you tell me, "Oh, I'm good and everything's good," then I'm going to take it as
Mhm.
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. But if I begin to watch you over a period of time and I start to see that everything that you do is becoming intentionally offensive, I'm just simply going to remove myself. I'm not going to even allow you to get to that point. I'm not going to even allow you to get to that point. So, that's basically it. You just have to continuously get to a place to where you begin to grow and say, this is not about me and what they did. This is about the enemy using them, right? To get me out of place. And not only that, and sometimes it could be God. Sometimes God could put you in a place to where he allow you to see what's in your own heart. Because some of us think we patient till we go, oh,
Mm,
we think we patient till we go through some stuff. We think we forgiven until
right,
God put us in a position to forgive. Then we realize we're not as forgiven
right.
as we think we are.
And you know, Nadir, how we can examine if we've forgiven or not? Because when a heated argument, right, with that
Mm-hmm.
spouse or someone, and you've already said, like the kids, sorry, or I
Mm-hmm.
forgive you, but let an argument or something happen. And guess
Mm-hmm.
what comes up? That
Mm-hmm.
very thing that you said you forgave that person for. So they're looking
Mm-hmm.
at you like, wait, I thought you said
Are
that
we
you
arguing about
forgave
this?
me. Are we talking about this again?
You be arguing
What? I thought
about
you
the
forgave
food,
me.
the garbage, and then you be like, wait a minute, what are we arguing about the same thing?
Right. Because at the end of the day, it's really a root cause of, why you're fussing, why you're arguing.
Yes.
And if that person really to say, you know what, I really didn't forgive you for when you
Mm,
cheated on me. I really
mm,
didn't forgive you
mm.
when you hurt my feelings and you was talking
Yeah.
about my weight or how I look or how
Mm,
I cook. We have
right,
different senses or
right.
we're really sensitive about certain things that
Mhm,
bother us, and then
mhm,
we react right in a
mhm,
way to that person and saying, well, what is wrong? What did
mm,
I do?
right.
They're harboring unforgiveness
Mhm.
because you guys never talked about it. They just let it go, as they say. But
Whoa.
really, when things get heated, it all comes to the surface. So that's why it's important for us to deal with the inner, things within us. Like be honest with ourselves and be honest with God and, be honest with the people that are in your circle and the people that you can trust. If you're married, be honest with your spouse, your children or whatever your core is, right? We have to learn how to be honest
Mhm.
about things,
Right.
and
Mhm.
even
Absolutely.
with the relationship thing,
Mhm.
it's so important to forgive because guess what? If you don't deal with that, a lot of times that's why divorce happens
Mhm.
because now the heart is hardened. We
Mm.
never talked about it. It's been 10 years. So guess
Mm.
what? That thing started from a little seed. Now
Mm.
it's growing,
Mm.
growing, growing.
Yeah.
Now it's out of control. So where I don't even want to deal with it. I'm done with you.
Mm.
You've let this get out of control.
My
I've been
God.
giving you signs, but
Mm.
now the root of the
Mm.
unforgiveness is so deep
Yes.
that
Yes.
it's no resolve. And
Mm.
we want to prevent that. That's why God said, forgive. You know,
Yes.
forget those things that have happened in the past. You know,
Yes.
how hard is that?
Mm.
We keep trying to tell ourselves that it's hard,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
True.
But God said, if you do it my way, because it's so many scriptures in the Bible that he said he forgave. Even Jesus said, forgive them
Mm.
because they know not what they do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you mad at a person, and like you said earlier, I don't even know what I did. What did I do? What did I do?
Yes.
And sometimes because we're not mature, we hold things in. And I
Mm,
can remember as a little girl, we talked about this, Nadira. I
yeah.
told you I used to always say, people would ask me for my clothes and ask me to do things for them.
Mm,
Knowing good and well I should say no, but I say yeah.
mhm.
And knowing in my core that it is hurting me on the inside, right? Now I'm becoming bitter. Now I'm becoming angry because now you messed up my clothes and now you didn't pay me and, things like that. And they're like, oh, that's
Mm,
how you really feel? Because you know what? I just took my clothes back and didn't say anything. Opposed to, girl, you messed up my jacket. You messed up my clothes. You said that you were going to pay me for doing your hair,
mm,
and it's 5 years later. You still have yet to pay me.
mm,
But we tend to let things go
mm.
opposed to trying to get an understanding. So that's just one of the keys that, what I'm learning how to do is,
Mm,
confront, but not with, um, what's the
right.
word? Combative. I'm confronting to get an understanding. I'm
Yeah.
confronting because I love you enough not to push you to the side, right?
Mhm,
I'm, coming to you because I have compassion. I love you. I want you in
mhm.
my life. I need you to understand that this bothered me. And guess who's a good example of that? Joseph.
Mhm. Oh gosh. Man, I reference him. And you know how many times have we watched the story of Joseph? Because
Oh,
there's
let's
so
get us some popcorn
much.
and we just like, oh my God, it's just
Oh my gosh.
into
So
that
much to
story about,
learn. Oh my God.
forgiveness and forgetting,
Mm,
and the reason why I kind of want to give like an understanding of forgetting, Nadira, are you able to put that one up? Because I think we have the wrong perception
mhm,
about forgetting. You
mhm,
know, go back to, it's the conscious decision,
mm,
right? To
mm,
invest in who? Yourself,
mm,
right?
mm,
That I am no longer allowing this situation to
mm,
control me
mm.
because it is
Yeah.
hindering my sole purpose.
Yes. Yes.
What if Joseph would have continued to be mad
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
his brothers, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But guess what started the feud?
Mm.
Some parents, y'all have favorites, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, number one, the dad, the father favored Joseph. And then he, because of, him being, young, he began to tell about the dream. So the brothers already,
Mm.
38 hot with him. Oh, who he is, he already daddy favorite. Now he's saying he gonna rule us one day. Oh, really?
Mm.
Okay, I got you. So see what already, took place in the heart because
Mm.
of jealousy or favoritism. It's so many things that, I'm giving this example that there's so many reasons or ways that for unforgiveness can lie in a person. And
Mm.
Joseph, he's going along his way. He think he's doing the right thing, telling about the dream. But really, that started more hatred to the
Mm.
point that they wanted to kill him. They,
Mm.
they wanted to kill him.
Mm.
But,
Yes.
the blessing about Joseph, like everything that he went through, right?
Mm.
He chose, right? He decided to
Mm.
forgive. And guess
Yeah.
what? It kind of, it kind of rumbled up in him when he saw them, right? So don't get it twisted. We're not saying that we're not supposed to feel. We're not supposed to be, those things. But what we're saying is look at it in a different lens,
Mm.
right? Of how this can, bless your life, right? If you choose to forgive, if you choose to forget that thing, right? And what Joseph did was when he saw his brothers, God had blessed him to the point that they didn't even recognize him because they just knew. that he was dead. Isn't that funny, Nadir?
It's funny because it's funny that you said that they didn't recognize him, because what I've learned is the grace of God, the love of
Mm,
God
yes.
changes
Woo.
your it changes how you show up. So
Mm,
people might have known you in the past as this girl. When she show up like this. But what
mm-hmm,
happens is when God begins to change you from the inside out, you show up, you don't look like the way you used to look. So it's
mm-hmm,
hard to recognize the new Tasha, because Tasha is now walking in a any man being Christ, he is a new creature.
mm-hmm.
Old things pass
Old
away. So
things are what?
old. So they don't know. The only thing they know is the old Tasha,
Right.
the old me. They
Mm-hmm,
know what you were. But when
mm-hmm,
you show up and you allow God to do the internal work, when you could be right in the midst of people and they don't even know that it's you. And it's like, oh, you,
yeah.
they
Mm-hmm,
didn't recognize you because, and that's what happened. They didn't recognize Joseph, even though Joseph looked them in their face, because over time, Joseph
mm,
begin to not his countenance change, of course his age, as he began to age, but
mm-hmm,
it was the glory of God, the grace of God, and the love of God that changed his encounter. And a lot of the times is that we, I was listening to you talk, I was thinking about, Proverbs 16:3, and it says, commit thy works unto the Lord, and your thoughts will be established. The reason why sometimes we can't get past and forgive, because if your mind is always focused on what that person did to you, what
mm-hmm,
they said to you, you're
mm-hmm.
not going to be able to move past that.
Right.
So when you commit your works into God, then what happens is he's going to establish your thoughts. That's how you will know. It was something I was reading the other day when I was doing the nightly devotions. And I've been learning so much, guys. If you have not been joining me on nightly devotions on TikTok, you are missing out. I'm telling you,
Yes.
let me tell you something. I have been reading things and being reminded of things, and I'm like, whoa, this is, man, the God we serve is really amazing. And so, what I started to realize is that the more we start to commit our
Mm-hmm,
works, and
mm-hmm,
our works meaning the things that we do and why we do it, when we commit it to him, he establishes your thoughts. So you're not
mm-hmm.
walking around thinking about what somebody did or said, because you're so busy walking in purpose. You're so
Yes.
busy focusing on what God called you to do, that you don't
Mm-hmm,
even have the time to
mm-hmm,
focus on how you offended me. I don't have the time to do that, because that slows me down. If I focus on what you did to me, right? And focus, and that don't mean you hide it. You address it, right? Because most people don't want to do that. They don't want to address, what you've done. Hey, what you did to me, that really hurt me. That really
mm-hmm.
bothered me. You and I have had, girl, let me tell you, they look at us and they be like, they don't understand the feuds that we had. And we always, this is how I knew we were growing, because we would get to the point and we would be like, let's come together and let's get before God. Let's do this thing the right way. And most people are not willing to do that, because they're worried about what people think. They're worried
Well,
about what.
and not to cut you off, but I remember one particular situation, and I remember when we did that, I felt God. I felt
Mm,
the relief.
yeah,
That's how you guys were supposed to do that. Because
yeah.
see, the enemy's goal is still to
Mhm,
kill, steal,
mhm,
and destroy. He
mhm,
wants to kill sisterhood check-in. He wants to kill relationships. He wants to kill sisterhoods. He wants to kill brotherhoods. He
mhm,
wants to kill marriages. He wants to kill family. And I can go on and on and on. But
mhm.
now we have to get
Right.
to the point where we're determined.
That's
Oh
right.
no,
Mhm,
devil, you a lie.
mhm,
Okay, self, because sometimes it's self, it's you.
mhm,
No, humble yourself
mhm,
so you can come to the place to say, you know what, I have
mhm,
learned how to love. I have
mhm,
learned to get an understanding. I
mhm,
have learned to be compassionate. You know
mhm.
what, God, I'm gonna give it all I got. You know what? I'm not gonna give up so easy. Because we be quick to.
Yeah, we be quick to give up. That's what the enemy wants. He wants
Yeah.
to he wants because he loves confusion, right? And he don't realize as long as you in this world, I have
In this life.
you
Yes.
are going to have
Mm,
tribulation. There are going to be
yes.
things that come against your faith. There's going to be
Mhm.
things that come against your life, your marriage, your children, your family, and you got to make a decision. You got to
Yes.
make a decision to know to pick and choose your battles and figure
Yes.
out which one of these is, because the he said the battle is not ours, it's his, right?
Yes.
So when the enemy is fighting you, he's not fighting you because of you, because you're so awesome. No, he's fighting you because of who
Right.
dwells inside of you,
Right.
right? It says the thief cometh but to kill. So that means
Yes.
he ain't coming except he can kill, steal, and destroy. If he can't kill, steal, and destroy, he ain't coming.
Right. You ain't got nothing going on. He gonna let you go on about your way. Oh,
Yeah.
not him. No, not him, God. I'm talking about that one over there. Like when he said, Job, take your hedge from around him. You
Mm.
got him protected.
Yes, you got him
You know what I'm
protected.
saying?
He's
Oh
doing what you
yeah.
want to do because you
Uh-huh.
just wake up everything. You got a hedge around him, so that's
Yeah.
why he's serving you. And but
Mhm.
you know what? I was talking to somebody earlier, and I said, sometimes the things that we go through, it sometimes is God that's putting us through it because to reveal to us our state of where we are so we can see where we really are. Because sometimes we're saying we're forgiven, and then it's something that comes up and triggers it, and you realize, oh, dang, I thought I forgave, but I really didn't.
Mhm. Right.
Sometimes,
Because God did that to Job.
hmm
God called Job my faithful servant.
hmm hmm
And the devil could do anything, all those things that he did, but he could not kill Job.
hmm
And that's why we panic because we feel like, oh, I'm gonna die. No, that's not what's gonna happen. God said, I need to test you right now. I need to see.
sometimes you do. Your flesh need to die because
You know?
your flesh
Yeah,
needs to be in
absolutely.
control, and you
Yes.
realize. And I think people sometimes get to a point where the exhaustion that they feel is of they get tired of doing things themselves because their way is not working. Sometimes when you're doing things your way, it just ain't always working. And so sometimes, look, I got both hands up, right? Sometimes we have to stop walking in false humility, right? We have to
Yes.
stop walking in false humility and thinking that as long as we have to step out of who God created us to be something else to appease people, right? And what you have to do is the more you realize, you know what? Everything that I do, he's the vine, I'm the branch. I can't do nothing without him anyway. So that kills that right there. That kills the pride. That kills I can't do nothing unless he give me favor anyway. I can't be successful at anything I do because what is real success anyway without you? What is a real relationship like without you? What is a real business like without you? What is a family like without you? You know,
Yes.
what is having money like without you? What is it living in the big house without you? What is it
Yes.
to have a good paying job without you?
Mhm.
Right? So I think the more I'm starting to realize, just like a baby, when you're a baby and you're born into the world, you kind of nitpick at some stuff, and then when you grow, you kind of start getting older, and you notice that older people start letting stuff go.
Yes.
Older people that are living in peace have understood this, right? I
Mhm.
remember my friend said this to me, and I never forget this. And her name's Renee, and she said, the older I get, the more I realize how valuable my peace is. And when I think what happens is it's the same way. The more you grow in Christ, the more you realize how valuable your peace is. And
Right.
it's like I'm not willing to give that up to not even my own ignorance, you
And you
know.
know what, Nadir, when you are not in a forgiving state, it goes against your peace.
Oh,
How
yeah,
can
definitely,
you,
definitely.
right? How can you be at peace and you know that you have unforgiveness in your heart, right?
Mm,
And you know, when we were talking about Joseph being unrecognizable, one
mhm.
thing I like in his maturity, what it said in the Bible, it says that Joseph called the name of his firstborn
Mm.
Manasseh,
Oh,
right? For he said,
oh,
God has made, come on now,
oh,
God has made me forget all my hardships
oh
and
my
all
God.
my father's house. Wait, God
Wow.
made you?
Wow. God has caused you to forget. Wow.
So why can't we forget?
And but you know why God caused him to forget? This is pretty cool. You know why
Come
he
on,
did?
come on. What?
He
What's
caused
that?
him to forget because it was the goodness of God. He began to see how God was good in his own life and how God
Yes.
showed him mercy, right? And I say
Everything that he went through. Yes.
I,
Come
t- I,
on.
tell, I tell this to my kids all the time. The same grace that is available to you is
Mm,
available to your offender.
mm-mm.
Don't get in the habit of thinking you get a special form of grace and they don't. No, you the same grace that's available to them to you is available to them. So I believe that Joseph, I'm not saying that this is Bible, I'm just saying what I
Right.
believe. I
Yes.
believe that Joseph realized the goodness of God, the grace in God, the loving kindness of God, and I believe it brought understanding. I believe it brought understanding in terms of how he began to look at the situation. Because even in Psalms it said how the Lord is always he gives understanding to the righteous, and I believe that's what happened. I believe he had understanding. I believe there was a level of understanding that was there and it caused him to realize, look, because it was proven by what he said. You meant it for evil, but God knew that I needed to be. He positioned him so that he can save all of Israel, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
he said, "You meant it. So what you did, you meant it for evil, right? But God used it. That's where we get that all things working together for our good. So though you might have meant it, you might have hurt me because you might have intentionally did it because you felt you meant it for evil when you said what you said to me. You meant it for evil when you did what you did, but God meant it for good because He transitioned my heart. He showed me His grace. He showed me His love as a result of that. I begin to see his grace. And I believe that's what happened with Joseph. I believe Joseph seeing God's goodness in what happened in that situation. I believe the Lord gave him understanding and he started to understand in hindsight. This is God brought me here. You meant it for evil, but now I understand that this had to happen because look, they would have starved to death. When people
Yeah.
reject you, T, when people reject you, you gotta say you meant it for evil, right?
Yes.
But God meant it for my good because it made me better. It made me.
Yes.
You rejected me. You walked away from me. You hurt me. You meant it for evil when you did it, but God made it for my good because when I
Yes.
look at the person that I am today as a
Yes.
result of that, I wouldn't have been
Mhm.
the person that I am today without the trials and tribulations that positioned me to be
Mhm.
where I am. So some
Mhm.
of y'all need to thank God for some of these people that's offending you and some of
Yeah.
these people that's hurting you. You need to thank God, right? Because it could have been
Because
worse,
without that,
right?
right. And without that, it wouldn't have
Woo,
pushed you into your destiny. It wouldn't have pushed you into your
woo.
purpose. It
Ain't
wouldn't have made you the
girl.
man or woman that you are today. You needed that press. You needed that pain.
Ooh,
You
goodness.
needed that in
Oh,
order to
yeah.
grow. We needed that in order to grow.
Y'all need to
We
put that in
needed
the
that.
comments. We need it.
Huh?
You some of y'all need to put that in the comments. I needed that offense. I
Yes, yes.
needed that to make
Yeah,
me.
I needed that violation. I needed
Ooh,
that violation against me
oh my gosh.
because I needed to go before the judge,
Oh gosh.
right? So that
Some of
he
y'all
can
need to thank him.
recompense me. You feel me? So that I can get this reward. But a lot of us don't want that pain.
Ooh.
We don't want that
Ooh.
pressure.
Oh my God. Oh my
And,
God.
and, and how can you fulfill purpose without pain,
Mm.
right? It's how you go about the pain. How do you perceive the pain now? How do you go about
Ooh.
your daily life? Even when, Potiphar's wife tried to, take advantage of Joseph. I'm
Mm.
going to say rape him because she come back, Tasha. But, uh, when she wanted Joseph,
She would have. If he yielded, she would have.
hey, hey, woo, but because he feared the Lord, and
Mm.
he said that he gave me rule over everything
Mm.
but you.
Mm. Mm. It was the goodness. He realized the goodness.
Oh, you think I'm
Oh
gonna
my
lose my position
girl, what you say? What
just to lay down with you? Are
girl?
you crazy?
Mm, mm,
Every, people knew who Joseph was. Even when he interpreted the dreams, look how he became disciplined when
mm,
God gave him the dream about the famine. Most of us, if God give us a dream about a famine, we still gonna spend, we gonna splurge, we
mm,
still gonna have fun, we gonna do all of this. But no, he planned because that was a part of the purpose. What if
mm,
he had disciplined himself, right? Through all the hurt, through all the disappointment, being put in jail, right?
mm,
All of
mm,
those things. But he said, no, I got to stay focused
mm,
because there's getting ready to be a famine in the land, and God is going to use
mm,
me, right,
mm.
to
Yes.
save the people.
And guess what? When he had an opportunity to retaliate, because sometimes, sometimes if you have the opportunity to retaliate, sometimes, sometimes you grow when you have the opportunity to get folks back. You be like, oh, I know I can get them.
That's why I said Saul said I could have killed you. He go proof right here. You see this part of your record?
Ooh, I could have
I
killed
could have killed you now,
you.
but because I fear God, because I love God,
I
you
could have
know,
took you out. I could have exposed you. I could have did that,
right?
but because he understood. This is the thing that this is one of the main reasons why, because David had such respect for God and his anointing.
Yes.
He
Hmm.
knew that
Hmm.
even though God, and this took a level of, again, understanding, right? He knew that even though Saul disobeyed God, he was still anointed by God. And it was not his position, right, to take him out because of how he was treating him, because David knew that his response to him was not had anything to do with David. It had everything to do with him being tormented, right? Because of what God, and I really want us to talk about that in the next segment. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but I really am feeling like we really need to talk about that, about the fact that how David really understood, that he was secure in the position that God had called him to. So he wasn't worried, because he didn't become king right away, right?
Absolutely.
It took years, right, before he became king. So to be tormented by somebody and to be mistreated by somebody for a very long time is
Yes.
really, that takes patience and it takes a level of understanding. But we're going to
A
dig more
level of love. A
in a
level of love. We,
level of
we, we,
love.
we got to deal. We got to deal with, and not necessarily love from man. It's
Right.
that level of love from God. Because
Absolutely.
when you know that God has given grace and
Mm,
mercy
yes.
and compassion and forgiveness on your, it
Yes.
compels you to just
Hmm.
say, you know what? It's not even worth it. But
Yes.
yes, we're going to go into a quick commercial. And if you guys are really enjoying tonight
Yes.
conversating with
Yes.
Latasha and Nadira on
Yes.
Sisterhood Check-In, we want you guys to like,
Hmm.
subscribe, definitely hit that notification button. Check us out on Facebook if you're not there, Instagram. And we really appreciate you guys tonight. Give us more comments. We really appreciate everyone that has tuned
Yes.
in tonight. And we'll see you here after the commercial.
Help me to trust him again with my heart and not be scared, looking over my shoulder when it comes to his actions because I felt betrayed by him. Help me to trust his good intentions towards me.
May not be physically with you,
They're in your church.
but I am sitting next to you.
Different face.
Different name. Same story, though, that goes like this.
I've done some terrible things in my life,
Some of them I chose to do,
and I own these choices.
but others, I just feel like I was swept up in a series of circumstances that didn't involve my will.
They just sort of happened to me.
I've become the culmination of those choices and circumstances.
So I guess I just need to say it.
I really,
Really.
really need some help.
Hi, I'm Nadira, author, life and business coach, and founder of the Sisterhood Checkin podcast. I help women take their life experiences and turn them into life lessons. Book a call with me at bit.ly/coaching with Nadira. I look forward to helping you get to the other side of victory. Have a wonderful day.
You know, there's seasons in that our gifts operate and flow in. There's seasons. And if you miss your season or your moment, your gift may not be no longer useful. Because if he called a generation to ask a question or to need something in a specific season, and he birthed you for that season, you're useless if you don't operate in your season.
Listen, Nadira, listen. You're doing it again. You're doing it again. You do it.
All right, and we are back here with Sisterhood Check-In with my amazing co-host Latasha Gooden, and we are going to continue in our conversation as we were discussing about deciding to forgive even when it's hard. That is our topic today, is deciding to forgive even when it's hard. And it is the enemy that don't want us to see the full picture. Sometimes you have to step away from the canvas in order to see the whole picture. Sometimes when you're too close up on the canvas, you can't really see the whole picture. And so sometimes, sometimes we have to step back, right? You look at a painting. If you're up on a painting, you can't see the entire painting. But when you step back, right, you can see the picture from his presence. So sometimes God has to bring us a step or two back so that we can see things as he does, right? And when you do, you'll realize you'll save yourself a lot of stress. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache because you realize that, you know what? We are all in the same boat. We are all equal when in terms of the grace of God that God has given us. He's given us the same amount of grace that, he's given each of us grace. The amount of grace varies depending on the gift that he's given us. But I really wanted us to really kind of dig into, because I really started to feel like there's something there that we really need to tap into. When we look at David, when we before with the commercial, we talked about David and how David knew, right? Here it is, Samuel anointed him, right? And told him that he was going to be king over Israel, right? But here he was, even though he knew where God called him to be, right? He knew he had to go back to doing what he was normally doing. Saul was still king for many, many years after that. So he had to deal with the mistreatment, right? Not only just mistreatment, you guys get all bent out of shape when somebody say something about you. But here it is, this man was trying to take his life. Like literally to the point to where the man had to flee the country and go into the enemy's camp just to survive, right? So David knew enough because he had a heart after God. He knew that this was still somebody that God anointed. And because God put him in that position, it wasn't time for him. And even if it was time, it was not up to him to remove him because he didn't put him there. And I believe that David understood that because of his personal walk with God. And sometimes you have to realize.
Wait. Time out. Because right now you're talking about the respect of the office. And I mean, even as Christians, sometimes we don't respect the office of who God has placed before us, who he has placed as your leaders, who he has placed to be the shepherd or to impart, into your life. We lose that whole fear because we tend to look at them as just a human being, opposed to looking at them just like David did. That was so powerful. Oh, I just had to time out on that one because oh my
Yeah,
God, it was
yeah,
so
that's
impactful
it's
because a lot of
yeah.
times we lose respect for people,
Mhm.
because of the office. And David knew what happened to Saul and why, but
Mhm.
he
He
still
did.
didn't disrespect him. He said, "Hey, you are,
He did.
no, I fear God, no."
Mhm.
But a lot of us, we don't fear God. We're so emotional. Who he disrespect me?
Right.
I'm gonna disrespect him. Oh, she disrespect me? I'm gonna disrespect her. But you got to remember that there's a God up above
Mm.
that you still have to be held accountable for
Mm.
every action, regardless if you feel like you're right,
Mm.
because that's not what God is not saying that you're right because you're disrespecting my office. And a lot of times God give us things that he know I need to birth this in you. He needed to birth that in David. So
Mm.
when you become king, you know how to treat people.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So a
Mhm.
lot of times what we're doing is more than just the right now and the
Mhm.
offense of what happened to us. It's
Mhm.
about where you're going. I
Mm.
need to heal that part of you, right? Because
Right.
David, he was kind of in solitude himself. He was
Mhm.
kind of isolated off from,
Mhm.
the house, his brothers. He out there. They say David was a ruddy man.
Mm.
The brothers are all clean and they're royal robes and they chilling around the house. But
Mhm.
out there, he manning the sheep. He's the sheep. Killing bears and lions. You know,
Right.
what did that stir up some kind of unforgiveness in him? Why am I out here by myself? It's more brothers in the house, and I'm the only one out here that got to tend the sheep.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
never treated them different.
Mm-mm. He sure didn't.
Never treated them different. Oh my
Mm-mm.
God! But that's why I said, Nadira, I got to come to another level in love, right? And understand that the level of love that I need to come to is not about people. It's not about things or situations. It's about my relationship with God. It's about the man with the plan that has kept me, that has loved me,
Right.
even when I didn't love myself. You know what I mean? So I'm really,
Mm.
this has just been a blessing to me. But that was really awesome about what you said between David and Saul.
I wanna read something in Proverbs chapter 14. It said, wisdom rests silently in the heart of one who has understanding.
Mm.
But what is in the heart of short-sighted fools is made known.
Ooh.
Sometimes when you are walking in unforgiveness, right? When you are walking in unforgiveness, right? Your heart is made known.
Mm.
Why and how? Because of the words that come out of your mouth, because of the actions that follow the words that you say out of your mouth, right? But when God gives you an understanding, right? When you understand what I just said, it changes. It changes the game. It changes the game when you really look at it. And it's like when I started to really, as I was looking and thinking about that, I thought, oh my gosh, like, wow, that is like powerful wisdom. With wisdom comes understanding, right? But foolish people, their heart is made known. So when you want to know the heart of a person that's dealing with unforgiveness, watch their words.
Mm.
If you
Watch
say you
their
forgive
actions,
people,
right?
watch their actions. You say
As
you
you
forgive
always tell me, your body posture. I
your
see
body,
your
yeah, your body language,
body.
yeah, your body language. Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm. And it's funny because my daughter used to say that to me all the time, T, right? And I'm gonna put that scripture in there so that those that want to write that down can write it down. But I was laughing because my daughter used to always tell me, now I've known my daughter all her life, right? But my daughter will swear up and down to me, I don't have to, you know. And she would do it like, I don't have an attitude. And I say, girl, you making the same moves, the same looks in your face is the same look that I got when you were a little girl. You got an attitude. No, I don't. When she was little, I don't have an attitude. You don't even know me. And I used to laugh and I said, there's a lot of things about you that I may not know in a very temporary circumstance. Your colors may change, the desires of you might like yellow today and red tomorrow, but the core of who you are, I will always know. Your what
Mm.
I said, but your colors, you might change your colors, and I might not know the color you like today, but I know the very essence of who you are. So I know when you do something because I've been watching you all your life. I know when you're doing it intentionally or when it's because I've been watching you. You only been watching yourself since you became aware.
Mm.
And you only became aware of who you were when you was about 10 or 11. But the first
Yes.
10 years of your life, I've been observing you. So
Yes. And
I
that's why,
know.
yeah, and that's why, also, with our second point is that it's important for us to forgive ourselves. Sometimes we have to also go to God and say, God,
Mhm.
I need you to forgive me for the
Yes.
injustice that I've done.
Yes.
Because a lot
Yes.
of times it's not just the perpetrator. You've
Mm,
done some offenses yourself. You
mm,
know, you
mm.
haven't been the perfect parent. You haven't been the perfect wife or husband. You haven't been the perfect, parent. You haven't been the perfect, things on your job. We can go on and on. We haven't met the mark yet, right?
Mhm,
And there's
mhm,
some things if you're still striving to be better in God, if you're striving to be the best that you can be, right? Through
mhm,
him and in him, you
mhm,
always want to go to God and ask for forgiveness. Like, God,
mhm,
help me. Lord,
mhm,
always ask for forgiveness regarding yourself. And it also said, if we confess our sins, it said that God is faithful, like he is just, right? To forgive us of all of our sins. And
yeah,
guess what?
yes.
He cleanses us.
Mm,
What? From all. He didn't say some. He said all unrighteousness. So that's why we got to really put parentheses on that word forget,
mhm,
because God said he does it in all, right? Multiply. He adds and things like that. But we want to do it in portions,
mhm, mhm,
right? But he said he will cleanse us from
mhm,
all. But no, if you want to continue to hold your brother or hold your sister, God say, how can I forgive you?
mm,
That's how we got to start examining. We got to look at this thing based on the word of God. Like, how is God really viewing how
mm.
we're saying, you know what, I forgive, but I ain't gonna forget. Okay. You're holding yourself up. You're holding up your healing. You're holding up your prosperity,
Mm,
right? Because we have not released these things from our hearts and our mind. It is still tormenting us.
mm,
When David from Saul, he was being tormented, basically. I don't
mm.
want to kill him. I really don't want to kill him. But I believe the release, but I believe that the release came when they had that conversation. And he said, hey, I caught you slipping. I'm just paraphrasing.
Mhm.
That's your robe. Now, I could have, as my grandma, I could have gutted you.
Gut you. I
But,
could gut at you, and your grandmama literally mean gut.
right. But he chose not to. And Saul probably looking at him like, you know what? Dang, he could have really killed me. And I
Mhm,
felt like just reading that, I say, man, that was
mm,
probably a real deliverance for the
mm,
both of them. First of
mhm,
all, that freed David, like, man, I'm tired of running.
mhm,
Please,
mhm,
stop it, right? And
mm.
then Saul, you know what? Let me stop the shenanigans. It is what it is. God has called him to be king. And I got to accept that God has called him to be king.
And
But
he was
without getting that understanding,
yeah.
right? Because you talked about wisdom and
Mhm,
getting understanding,
yeah.
that would have never took place. David probably would have still been running,
Mhm,
and Saul would have probably still been trying to kill him without that one point of contact of conversation to say, hey, let's resolve this.
And you
So
know
it's
what's
important. Go ahead. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, it was a little delay. I thought you had stopped. I'm
No,
sorry. Go
go ahead.
ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm good. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It was a little delay. I didn't mean to overtalk you. But
Yeah, no worries.
it made me think as you was talking when you were saying how David went to Saul and said, "Hey, look, I could have did this to you, but I didn't." I think at that point he wanted him to understand that, look, this is not, I didn't call myself to be here. We both know that this is God. I think what Saul at that point realized, he already knew. That's why he
Mhm.
was looking for Samuel to, that's why he was looking for the witch, to go to call up Samuel. Because now this same person that professed that you was gonna be king, now he dead. Now you want to go and conjure him up and be like, what do
Yeah.
I do? It is a that's why I said it go back to the beginning, what I was saying, that sometimes people do things because they're tormented, right? Saul was doing what he did to David because he was tormented, right? And sometimes when people are tormented by the things that have gone on in their lives and you don't know, sometimes you may know if you know them, but if you see people who are tormented, right? You have to walk, and we was talking about love before the break, how important it is to walk in love. When you really understand, yeah, you doing this, I could really take you out. You doing some stuff, I got some stuff on you, I could really take you out. I could kill you, I could do this, but I'm not going to do it because I know you're not doing this. You're doing this because you're tormented because of the judgment of God that's on you. And we have to be compassionate enough to be able to see that when people are doing things, maybe they're going through something. Maybe this is their only way of being able to express their frustration. And you got to be able to walk in love and say, you know what? Let me pray for them, because yes, what they did offended me and it hurts me, but you know what, they're tormented because they're going through some things. It may be God judging them in a particular area of their life, right? It may be something that they've done that they can't get no rest, right? And so you're the closest thing to them, you're the closest target to them, so guess what, you're going to get the bulk of it, right? Because they're going to feel like, watching you is going to remind them of their own disobedience. Now God took
Mm.
my position and gave it to you, and I got to watch you even though you ain't even in position yet. I got to know, I got to be mentally tormented that, and by knowing that God is raising you up to take my spot. That is a
Who are you?
that is a
You take
tormented
it my
to me.
Mhm.
What's so
Yeah.
special about him? What's so special about him? Why you using him? But to know that even his actions were being orchestrated by a tormenting spirit. So it wasn't even Saul himself, he was being tormented. So because David knew and was able to understand, God gave him understanding, he dealt with him in a very delicate way. And that is amazing. Sometimes you have to discern how to deal with people. And sometimes people, you have to deal with them in a very delicate way, right? Because we don't know what people go through on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you got people who are just intentionally doing stuff, even in their intentionality, you have to look for discernment, because they might be just doing that because things ain't going right in their life. And you got to be able to know the difference. You got to ask God to be able to give you the discernment to try the spirit and see, who is this
Yeah.
really coming from? Who am I really talking to?
And
Yeah.
right. And a lot of times, Nadir, we so tit as people. We're so
Mm,
stubborn,
yeah.
especially in relationships.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And we're waiting for her mic to come back. Her She had a brief interruption, and then we're going to wait for her to come back. She had a brief interruption, and she'll be back shortly. But the thing that we have to understand is that walking in the dimension where where we begin to see things, because the Bible said the pure in heart will see God, right? Only the pure in heart will see God. And so we've got to get to that place to where God, we see things as he does. And we'll wait for Tasha to come back and to get back on camera while she's working on her camera. Um, But sometimes we got to get to a place where we begin to see things through the eyes of God and not through the eyes of our flesh. Because when we see things through the eyes of our flesh, then what happens is we begin to judge unrighteously. And the Bible tells us don't judge anything before it's time. Right. So sometimes we're judging matters and situations without the full story, without knowing both sides of the story of the spectrum. And I believe that when we know both sides of the spectrum, it makes it a lot easier for us to be able to have understanding in a particular situation. So thank you so much for each. And as looks like she's trying to come back. I'm going to continue to talk until she comes back. Yeah, we're just waiting for you to come back, T. We're waiting for you to come back. So you back, T? You back, T? Don't. So I'm so yeah, so sometimes we have to position ourselves, and we'll give Tasha a chance to get herself back to where she wants to. But the fact that what we want to reiterate over and over to you that are listening, that forgiveness is in your control, right? You have to intentionally release people, because it's not going to affect them. It's not going to affect them if you refuse to release them. It's only going to affect you. And the more you hold on to what a person has done and has said, then the more tormented you're going to be, because they're going to move on with their life. Trust me, they're going to move on like nothing happened, right? Because half the times people don't even know. And I'm not saying that that doesn't count against people that do know. But for the most part, we have to really learn, we have to really allow the discernment to really, and allow our love walk to increase, so that we can be able to deal with people where they are, you know, instead of putting them in positions, because most of the time people don't even know. In a lot of the cases, I'm not going to say most of the cases, but in a lot of the cases, sometimes people do things and they don't even know. They don't even know that they did it. And if they do know, then you know how to deal with them. You know if they're intentionally disrespecting you, and you can do something about it, then remove yourself from the situation and just pray for them. But if you know that if you know that there is a possibility that something may be going on in their life, allow them the same grace that God has given you. T, did you have any final words that you want to say before we go ahead? I know you're working on some things on your camera. God, Tasha, you guys give Tasha a hand, give her some love, and let her know she is doing an amazing job. No matter what the enemy tries, you are doing an amazing job. And God is going to allow the people that need to hear your voice to hear your voice. So don't get discouraged. Keep pressing. Okay.
Yes.
So did you want to
Yes.
go ahead and give some final
Um,
thoughts?
yeah, so we were still talking about real quick why we should
Mm-hmm.
forget.
Yes.
So my final thought on why we should forget,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, the word says, right, why we should forget is that we should always, right,
Mm-hmm.
think on what is lovely, right? What
Mm-hmm.
is true? Like what is dear to God? Like God wants us to always, right? Let
Mm-hmm.
all of the bitterness, like all of the wrath, all of the clamor, all of those kind of things, like he said, just let it go. He said, because I forgave you,
Yeah.
right? So with that being said, we also have to, in Isaiah, it says that we should forget the things that has happened to us in the past.
Mm. Mm.
So that's something that you have to put activation to. We have to
Mm.
intentionally, right?
Mm.
Forget the things that have happened to us in the past.
Mm.
Don't keep on thinking about them. So what's happening is we
Mhm.
can't forget it because we're constantly thinking about it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And then it says that God is about to do something new. How can God do something new if we're constantly reminded or thinking about the old?
Mm. Ooh,
One of my
good.
things is you cannot put
That's
new
good.
wine into old wineskins,
Come
right?
on.
So it is a new beginning, right?
Mhm.
Even now is what the word is saying. So don't see it, right? You don't see it coming, what God is doing. It said, but I am going to make a way for you, right? Throughout all of this, God say, I am going to make a way for you if you do this, right? Through and through, even in the desert, I will make the streams of water in the dry and the empty land. He said he's gonna make all of this stuff for you. He's gonna work them out for you. But
Absolutely.
we have to put away the past. So my thing is this week, let's focus on just forgetting it. We
Yeah.
forgive, but
Yeah.
now we gotta do step two.
Mm-hmm.
Forget it. Forget it. God said, because I forgave you, I put it into the sea as far as the east is
Yeah.
from the west, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if God can do it, Jesus said, forgive them because they know not what they do. It, it,
Mm.
it, it settles it. He said, just forgive, like do it. That means just let it alone.
Mm.
Just do it. Sometimes we just got to let things alone. It
Wow.
happened, it occurred, but look at me now.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but if you constantly keep reminding yourself
Mm-hmm.
of the things of the old, how can you become
Yes.
healed? How
Wow.
can you fully prosper?
That's
You
good.
know, and I'm gonna talk about this real quick. I believe that's why a lot of people can't move forward in relationships.
That's true.
Like people that say, "Oh, you know what? I'm not ready to get married." And if you talk to them long enough, they'll tell you the reason I'm not ready to get married is because this happened in my past relationship. You're still holding on to the past. You have yet to forgive whatever happened in that past relationship.
Mm.
Because a person that has truly been healed, a person that's striving to be that man and woman of God, you know, they say, you know what, that happened to me, but I'm moving on. I'm trusting God by faith. Because
Yeah.
even when he forgave the sins before he healed, he said, because of your faith, I'm making you whole. We
Mm.
have to forget. Oh my God. Thank you, Holy Ghost. We
Mm.
have to forget by faith.
Wow.
We have to forget by faith. We got to trust God that He has worked that out. God, I'm giving that back to you. I forget that. That's my past. You know, whatever that situation was. And I
Mm.
know it, I know it's hard. I know that this is a tough situation on
Wow.
what we're talking about tonight. But God said, if you do it my way, watch this new season. That's what the word just said. That's what
Mm.
Isaiah just said. Now, I'm not saying this. This is what the word is saying. Watch this new season if you can forget. Forget
Wow.
the things that happened to you in your past. Choose and decide to do it today. And
Mm.
you know what? I'm telling you, I know that Nadir and I, like, we have really grown from, you know, what God is really allowing us to give to the people, allowing us to be able to share from, you know, experiences and situations in our life. So I pray that you guys have been blessed tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to encourage you guys also to go to the Sisterhood check-in website. Nadir has really poured her heart into a lot of journals. She's wrote a lot of books and things about healing, you know, even, you know, with the experience with her, you know, losing her husband. A lot of people don't deal with grief. We don't forget it. Opposed to us trusting God to say, let me heal your heart, right? So God has allowed her to impart some things into a book that can help people, right? You know, there's so many other things on the website, you know, that she has really put her heart and soul in because she's passionate about God's people. Check out the website, be a blessing. We really appreciate you guys tonight. I don't know if Nadir has any last words, but we love you guys. And
Mm.
we are so thankful that you guys came on to Sisterhood Check-in to conversate with us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Yes. And if you have a story and you want to be a part of the Sisterhood Check-in guest, if you want to be a guest here on Sisterhood Check-in with Tasha and I, make sure you send us an email. Tell us your story. You know, if you have a story and you want to be a guest, you know, send us an email at admin@sisterhoodcheckin.com and let us know all what you've gone through. Let us be there to hear and be able to share with our audience the things that God has brought you in, because I really believe
Absolutely.
I really genuinely believe that there's a reason why God didn't put everything in one person, and that each of us have an experience or something that we can contribute to our generation. So if you have, make sure you send us an email at admin@sisterhoodcheckin.com. Again, like Tasha said, you can go to visit my books at coachingwithnadira.com. Go there and check out all the things that I'm doing. If you need one-on-one coaching, just go there and book a session. You get a free 30-minute session, and we can, and I'll basically see if they're, if I'm in a position to be able to help you, because I know that I can't help everybody, but I can help those that are willing, that are teachable, and that do desire a change and that are teachable. Sometimes it's hard to coach people if they're not teachable. So if you're teachable and you know that you want to see change, go to my website at bit.ly/coaching with Nadira. And book a session with me. You can also support Tasha and I here at the Sisterhood Check-in broadcast by sending us, you can send us support at the Cash App, at the dollar handle Sisterhood Check-in. So if you are, if you really feel compelled to support us, feel free. We Tasha and I appreciate all the gifts that you send towards the broadcast. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. And those of you that are watching on a replay, thank you so much. Make sure you put in the comments #replay, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Have an amazing.
Thank you for checking in. We'll see you next week.
Yes.
Happy Friday.
Help me to trust him again with my heart and not be scared, looking over my shoulder when it comes to his actions because I felt betrayed by him. Help me to trust his good intentions towards me.
May not be physically with you,
They're in your church.
but I am sitting next to you.
Different face.
Different name. Same story, though, that goes like this.
I've done some terrible things in my life,
Some of them I chose to do,
and I own these choices.
but others, I just feel like I was swept up in a series of circumstances that didn't involve my will.
They just sort of happened to me.
I've become the culmination of those choices and circumstances.
So I guess I just need to say it.
I really,
Really.
really need some help.
Hi, I'm Nadira, author, life and business coach, and founder of the Sisterhood Check-in podcast. I help women take their life experiences and turn them into life lessons. Book a call with me at bit.ly/coaching with Nadira. I look forward to helping you get to the other side of victory. Have a wonderful day.